Hi.
Hey there.
Yes. Hi.
Hello.
All right. Pending merge. Oh. Oh. Switch metric server to Puma. Some reviews. I think Brian's been continuing to work on this, and there's some more PRs might see today. I don't know if those made it already, but this seems like it's been reviewed.
This one, I'm working on it right now. I haven't made progress yet. I
Okay.
started a little bit too late this week, so not ready for now.
I don't remember seeing this one, but go workflows. All right. Don't think we use a lot of workflow stuff, but
What is Go Workflow?
it's just GitHub
GitHub.
action stuff, I think,
Okay.
which just doing some linting, it looks like.
Mhm.
Yeah, it seems like, right?
I have specific kernels. It's like,
Still under discussion.
yeah, ongoing. Yeah, this is optional. We don't have any intent of doing this for the kernels for the stem cells that we build, which occurred to me the other day, just like the number of times where there's a CVE for like AWS or Azure or GCP, like we'd just be shipping stem cells a new release like every 2 to 3 days, it feels like. Be nice if they could batch all those.
So the one of Benjamin will be then pending, waiting for changes.
I have not made progress on this
All right,
yet, but
no worries.
yeah, I test that and document the test case.
And this was waiting for feedback on the context that we talked about last week. This was the BBL ALB as a config type, which looks like also waiting on those changes. And this one I have not had a chance to take a look at. Probably broken. This might fix it. I haven't even had a chance to look. You point to install docs. And
what's XQ? Is that another parser again for JSON or XML this
I
time?
definitely have no idea.
It's for XML, just like EJQ, but for XML. If I remember correctly.
I'm going to refresh and just assume that the inbox is broken, because when was the last time we had nothing in the inbox? Like, that doesn't seem right. But I don't know what would be broken.
We probably have too much duns again, so we probably need to archive that again.
Oh, yeah. That does seem likely. Is there a button for that? What is that? Archive all? Or do we have to delete them? Archive? No. Delete sounds like a terrible idea.
You can check the GitHub action in the community repository whether it's failing or to be
No.
actions. Sync work. It's project boards. It's the project boards. It's green, so it should be fine. That this is this Young Working Group project board is the boards is the check.
Well, and
We
people
did it.
stop.
We fixed everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Nothing on the agenda, so we'll take a peek at issues. Unless somebody has something they want to talk about first.
I have been starting to move the stem cell pipelines to the stem cell team.
Okay,
um,
nice.
It's running now to see if there are probably some CredUp variables missing. I already imported like 40s, but it's probably still some missing. And I paused the main ones, so just so you know.
So you just reflew them, no database surgery.
Yeah, and for the main, I also changed now the GitHub group, which can authorize for that.
Nice. Yeah, last week we also merged that whole timestamp thing, which I saw that the stem cell we cut does have the archive apt repos. So after this, I'll go make an update to the release notes just so people know, unless I haven't even looked at the release notes, if somebody did that already. But
Okay.
I do know that Long fixed a lot of the problems with that PR that I made along the way.
Yeah, there was some, he built it locally and he had some things that didn't work with his best version or something.
Yeah.
I think that was the case.
And then there was at least one spot where the resources need to be pushed in a different order or something, but
Yeah.
it mostly worked, which is impressive since I didn't try running it locally. Anything else before we dig into some issues?
No.
About the Noble, we have to write an RFC.
Oh yeah.
I think I can start that one if no one started yet.
I don't think anybody started.
We
But
were
we
just
do
already
this-
building it. I have a whole repo for it.
Yes, we have to get the commitment of other working groups that
Okay.
so for
Yeah, the big problems that we already noticed was of course the resolve conf, like how to get the DNS. It's now to the system resolve DNS resolver. That was the most annoying thing because it's hard coded in the boss agent. So we need to change some agent stuff. We probably also need to change some director stuff. And if up down seems to be still the how the network can be arranged. I would have thought that they would stop the whole if up down networking scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Because
They are
if that
supposed-
happens, then we need to change a lot.
Yeah, they are supposed to have moved to NetPlan.
Yes, but going to NetPlan is not some easy feat as we hard-coded ETH0 and ETH1 and a lot of other networking stuff directly. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff that's just hard-coded, and that would mean some rewrites for releases if you ever go to NetPlan.
Yeah, probably we should also create a Slack channel for that also.
We already have a Slack channel for Noble.
We have, okay, I'm
Yeah, it's open. It's not even private.
Great.
I think it's called Ubuntu Noble.
I was very
Bosch
creative with
Noble.
the naming. Something that's near the top of our backlog, which I think Ruben was promoting, was it started out as replace Monet, but I was like, you're not replacing Monet. They're like, no, we could write a shim such that it translates the Monet. I'm like, do not translate Monet files into something else. But there is possibly some work going to start on a alternative to Monet so that release authors could start moving away from it while we have a period where we support both, maybe in Noble. We don't know what that new thing would be. Best ideas are whatever we do for Windows releases, which is just like, it's like a YAML. Windows releases Monet file is just a piece of YAML that basically says, these are the processes. It's a lot like a BPM config as far as, you know, just defining abstract, like these are the things I want to run. And these are sort of the parameters. And then the Bosch agent in a Windows stem cell, you know, transforms that into a Windows service, but, you know, we could transform it into a systemd service or something, I think is the current idea, but trying to keep away from hard coding a technology into Bosch releases that it's not easy to abstract away from.
Yeah.
Okay. But if we're going to use systemd, how are we going to, because now we have easily like when we do Bosch Monet status or whatever, we see our own specific statuses, which is for debugging purposes very nice because you can see in one go what in your release is failing and not.
Yeah,
With
I think that
systemd.
somebody was saying that like systemd has groups or something, and like there might be some way or some helper scripts or
Oh, okay.
my idea was actually, I don't think anybody liked my idea, but my idea was like add a new command to the agent, like ask the agent like what's running, and they can take the Monet stuff and the other stuff, like take everything and be like, hey, this is the running state of the world according to what I know about the world. But we'll see. There's some ideas floating around, but yeah, I don't know what. It's all very much just nobody started work on it yet, but it's ideas floating around.
And if you want to do that for Noble, we need to put some haste behind it.
Somewhat behind it.
Yeah, some because if we want to release Noble in like
Yeah.
after in
Yeah.
June, so.
And I don't really, it doesn't feel like, I don't know, it feels like a good time to do it. You know, maybe 6 months ago was a better time, but it also doesn't seem like something you absolutely have to ship at the beginning of Noble to me. Like you could even backport it to Jammy. Like it's mostly an agent thing. And like you could just make it so like, hey, you got to be on, you know, releases, start moving in this direction. You got to be on this agent version or higher to do it, which is going to be, you know, mostly nobody. But once we get it in there, then in a couple years, releases can start transitioning because, or
Okay,
I guess they could start transitioning early too, because maybe a release could support both. You could have a Monet file and whatever the new thing is, and the agent will use the newer thing if it's there.
Yeah, okay, so the same as what we did with BPM, basically. You have two ways of starting.
Yeah.
And what is the reason why they don't want to do to just add an extra additions to BPM itself? Is it just too much work?
We looked at BPM a couple years ago, maybe when you were doing Jammy, and BPM is not. BPM is a Bosch process manager, not Bosch process monitor. I mean, it does not do any monitoring of processes at all. It just allows you to take a command and containerize it, and then BPM is not running anymore. So there's no monitoring to make sure it stays up or anything. So you need something to do that. And the idea of building that into BPM was like, yeah, let's not build another process monitor.
Oh, okay.
That was my first ideas, though. Yeah, a couple of years ago, I was like, oh, BPM, everybody's doing that. We can solve this problem. And then somebody told me what BPM actually does. I'm like, oh, this doesn't help.
Okay, so, well, maybe in systemd, it's like, sounds like an idea.
Yeah, you could, I mean, you could change BPM to do systemd, or maybe you could have the new thing. You could have the agent just look for BPMs and then transform those into systemd jobs or something. I don't know. Transform it into a systemd job that runs BPM to start the thing.
But you
It's a
can use just
weird
CSMD
cycle.
runs a BPM job. That's what we're currently doing with Monet. Monet runs BPM basically. So
Yeah, that is true, right? Like, yeah, don't even need release authors to define something new. Just look for BPM. I mean, then you have the problem of BPM's not on the stem cell yet, but could solve that.
yeah. Yes, yeah, we could extract stuff from Monet file and then create a systemd in the mean. So if we want to do some backwards compatibility and at some point we just remove that feature that it would convert stuff, but seems like it would complicate stuff when debugging. Like if
Yeah.
stuff is magically converting shit for you.
What could go wrong?
What could, yeah.
Just do it right and do not need to debug.
And somebody comes along and they're like, what's going on here? It's like, don't look at that.
Hmm.
Well, that's currently already happening with Monet, so I guess.
So we would have a translation of the Monet file into some YAML looking like what we have on Windows themselves, possibly.
Well, no, I think what you were talking about is that you want to have a generic thing, like, and then below that we can basically choose in the next future whatever the hell we're going to do with it. If we're going to use systemd or whatever comes next, or
Yes. Oh, this might work.
okay, shown this.
Just as far as like what a Windows Monet file looks like. It is, well, this is some JSON, but yeah, it's like why the word monet is in here. I do not know why the word monet is in here. I didn't write this, but yeah, I mean it's an array, well, it's a hash with processes, and that's an array of executables with names and args and environment variables. Like, so this is what
Yeah.
Windows Monet file is, and the agent just transformed this. So something generic like this that we can take and then do whatever we want with in the agent, so that we can swap out the back end.
Yeah, but this is more the area of BPM. BPM actually describes how to run the process.
Right. So
this is what I see here. And when it watches at something and decides that when this thing is not there, the process must be restarted or stopped.
and that might be a
And-
good direction, since releases, a lot of releases already support BPM, is not defining a new interface, just the agent starts looking for the bpm.yaml, and if you got that, do something. We have to then figure out how BPM ends up where it lives. And then it's sort of weird because the BPM YAML defines how to run it, and the agent finds that and then transforms that into like an agent systemd thing or something. But then that systemd thing uses BPM to call that thing. I don't know. It's a weird, I guess maybe you could just look for, maybe there's a generic thing and it's like, you don't even transform it. You're just like, oh, there's a BPM YAML. Just here's a generic systemd thing to run that and monitor that BPM thing.
Yeah, because normally once you transition to BPM, you get into something very standardized. It's BPM start my process, BPM stop my process, and please watch the BPM PID and period. So with this very limited concerns taken on by Monet. Some other, the idea in the beginning was that some other component could do it, but in fact, we have many Monet files using still using scripts, custom scripts, or using some Monet features. So we could. It would be, well, BPM was a very large improvement at standardizing the way you describe how the process is supposed to run. So obviously we should build on top of that. And yeah, then it's more about we have a standard way of resolving unhealthy processes, which is restarting them. Then we need a trigger, something that tells it's not working. I need to be restarted from the process itself. And yeah, that's this responsibility to be owned by something. If systemd can do it, fine. If the agent can do it, fine. And finding the interface, the correct compatibility layer with releases still not being transitioned to BPM and still having to run scripts, start and stop scripts. Then there is also the responsibility for the logs, and who is responsible for writing the start and stop, the logs for the start and stop process. I think it's the responsibility of the bash script itself.
Yeah,
Monit
currently.
doesn't do that.
BPM will
and
give you some standardized stuff for it, but yeah.
Yeah, and BPM does it in a standard way.
There is also the issue
okay.
that Bosch Lite, aka Warden stem cells, don't have a systemd. So like if we do move to systemd, we have to figure out like what we're going to do there. And some releases already do some stuff. It's like, oh, if there is no systemd, do this, but we don't want that in every release. So we need to find some generic thing for this new world for that. So there's a lot of issues and problems and ideas that sort of we may start working through in the next couple weeks, and probably would end up being some sort of RFC.
Yeah. On Warden stem cell, who is running Crony and AuditD? Do you know that?
I don't. I think a lot of things just don't run.
Yeah.
With Noble or
within any Warden stem cells can't run a systemd, because systemd has to be PID 1 or something, and then when you're containerized like Warden stem cells are, they can't. They're like, no, that I can't.
Yes,
but all stem cells are based on Runit, isn't it? We replaced the init system by Runit.
No, Runit is only used for the agent.
Yes, Runit is responsible for starting Monit and the agent.
I think it's only the agent. I think Monit is even agent is handling. I think agent is even starting Monit. I don't think it's the other way around. Or is Monit? No, Monit is even by systemd currently, I think.
I need to check that, and I put that into the document related to removing Monit.
But yeah, with Warden stem cells, it's that's a whole different alternative universe to work with.
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't aware it was so different. Okay.
But even if you look at the how we build it, it's like we remove so many stages that cannot be used within. So it's just like, yeah, we did this and all these 20 stages that we use at all the other stem cells. Yeah, we don't do that anymore. So that's. It's also not the Warden stem cells are also not representative at all. It's just that you can play with it and use with it. I don't know.
Which is a little awkward that we built that new agent command to compile stuff, which is fundamentally using a Warden stem cell to compile. I mean, it's using a container image, which is normally a Warden stem cell.
That was also a little bit where the Warden stem cell was used for. It was just like small. It could be just run into the container, and then we can just basically what we're doing now with that new command. It's like, I want a small stem cell on a container and I want to build a release. That was basically the only thing we were doing on Warden.
Yeah. Makes me a little nervous just because Warden stem cells are not super representative of actual stem cells, but like, hasn't caused a problem yet. So we'll wait until it does before.
It's representative in the way that all the libraries and everything is on there.
Just a lot of
But-
the system setup stuff is different.
A lot of
Yeah.
the system setup is different.
But you can reliably compile and
Yes.
and
So
package
far.
compiled releases so far. Let's keep
Well,
let's keep
we haven't
on
seen
being
any
able to do
issues
it.
with that for the last 5 years. So
But I think we can put the discussions in that document most probably, or in the issue, which will be better.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Speaking of
I-
issues. Oh,
Yeah, go ahead. I wanted to say that we should touch on that issue regarding crashing containers.
All right. So let's ending.
Yes, right below you. Yeah.
Oh yeah, this one. Yeah, this one's not that much fun. We spent a lot of time on this yesterday. So far we've been able to reliably reproduce it on a 6.5 kernel, not a 6.2. Yesterday we were attempting to reproduce it. So Canonical still hasn't gotten back to us with anything since we were able to reproduce it a bunch and sent them a bunch of out of memory stack traces, and they had something to do with caches or something. I think this was found at end of the week, so I guess this didn't make it into last week's meeting, but something about the inside the container, the caches being full and not being evicted at the time of the out of memory errors. So we sent that info to Canonical, haven't heard back from them. Yesterday, we were spending a lot of time trying to reproduce the issue outside of a stem cell on just a regular jammy latest VM. We struggled with that all day until the end of the day when we realized we made the wrong VM type somewhere in the middle of the day, and it was just like an M2 medium, which has like 2 CPUs, which you cannot reproduce it on a 2 CPU VM, it turns out. You need at least 4. So very end of the day, we were able to reproduce it. It's still a lot of stuff. We were like installing Garden manually. You know, we started off the day doing just like run C or container D and couldn't reproduce it. And we built up to the point where we were manually installing Garden and container D and like starting it and then using some ancient Goal CLI to like make a container. And so the end of the day, once we got back on a correct VM type, we did reproduce it. So now we're going to peel back some layers and try to get down to just a container D or run C so that we can then take that and be like, here, Canonical, here is a very simple setup way to reproduce it on a 6.5 kernel versus a 6.2 kernel where it doesn't reproduce.
Joseph, have you tried to, because I saw Noble is now using 6.9, is it maybe, if you can easily reproduce it, is it maybe a good idea to just quickly make a stem cell and just bump that to the 6.9 kernel? It's not that hard, so.
Maybe
Maybe you can see if it indeed there is some fixes later on. We don't know. So, and at least we can also point out that like in 6.9 it works, 6.5 doesn't work, 6.2 it works.
Yeah,
and then you can basically diff.
That'll probably be a good step after we get a smaller reproduction step. We can then narrow down exactly where the problem occurred.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And with Canonical, we are communicating in the context on that issue, which was linked here, which we suspect to be related, or is it a completely new issue?
Where is that linked in here?
Beginning in the description. No. Oh, okay.
We opened a support ticket with Canonical since we have a contract, which I think is something else that Ruben is working on. Getting some sort of way so that we can all see the same support issue, not all open separate support issues, which hopefully would get faster response times too if they know multiple people are worried about it.
Didn't Chris McGowan also create it from their side, from US Gov, that they also created a ticket?
Wouldn't surprise me.
And SAP also created a ticket, and then maybe it's just nice and we just all converge it into one.
Look, everybody's seeing this issue. We were very concerned at the end of the day yesterday because we weren't able to reproduce it on a jammy VM. Then we took our exact reproduction step over to stem cell. We're able to reproduce it. We're like, oh, it's definitely a problem with the stem cells. Like one of these kernel flags that we specify, which by the way, we specify a lot of weird kernel flags. Some of it's for like Diego backwards compatibility with C groups that it'd be nice to move away from at some point. But then we realized the VM type was wrong, and then we were able to reproduce. We're like, oh, it's definitely not a stem cell problem then. So kernel problem for sure.
But I'm wondering why the Kubernetes world is not seeing this at all.
Could be just that they don't see it yet.
Does the Kubernetes world do a lot of, so we're only seeing it on the staging step. Is that something that often happens in the Kubernetes world, or do they like do that during sort of Docker image build step, you know, compile your app and whatnot? Maybe that doesn't typically happen in Kubernetes or in a memory limited space.
Most probably not, because they use registry and they just
build it and push it to the registry, and then Kubernetes is running it, which we haven't seen any running problems. It's always been staging.
okay, yeah, most probably that's right.
But yeah, it'd be great if other people, non-Bosch people had the problem, and Oracle would see
Yeah,
them.
when you wrote that it's hard to reproduce on a vanilla Jammy stem cell, and I thought digged a little bit into containerd and Rancy to see maybe it's something, I don't know.
That's something that some people worked on at the beginning of the week, of just like C groups, like make a C group, limit the C group, run the same process in there. And like we have not been able to get that to fail. So there's something about the way that some restriction that containerd or Runc is setting that we're not setting when we make the C group manually with the memory restriction. So now we have to sort of figure out where that delta is, so that, because ideally that's the best reproduction step. Here, make a C group, echo your PID in there, run this thing out of memory, kernel 1, kernel 2. Like that's the goal. Which maybe now that we have a somewhat small reproduction step, we'll probably go all the way back to that and just like use that to make a container, and then look at the C groups and see like, okay, what is configured in these C groups that we're not doing when we try to do it manually.
Yeah.
Anything else on the ongoing memory problems? I did see that maybe we talked about that last week. The Gov folks tried doubling the staging memory, and that didn't fix it. It helped, but didn't fix it, which does rule out sort of the idea that we were sort of like close to this limit, and we've just sort of finally stepped over the limit with maybe a slightly more memory usage in the kernel, because they doubled it to 2 gigs of staging memory and still had the problems. So it does seem like that plus what we saw earlier or end of last week with the cache eviction, there is some sort of something not getting cleaned up in the kernel. This looks new.
Maybe
Looks
we
like,
can put labels. Oh, this is the milestone wish list. Okay, I see this.
yeah, this does look like it's already in the wish list. Okay, yeah, I think we had some people. This is, yeah, somebody on our team.
Put it on a wish list, or put it in that milestone. Oh, wish list already.
Yeah.
It's already there. I was also. Yeah.
We had somebody who managed to lock an account on a stem cell the other day, and they're like, when does it unlock? And I looked, and I don't know if anybody knows this, but the number of seconds we put in there for account lockouts is 3 attempts, and the number of seconds is a week. Wait a week before it unlocks. I'm like, oh, you might want to just recreate that VM.
It's good security.
Yeah. Nobody's getting in there. You got 3 attempts to guess the randomly generated password. All this other stuff doesn't seem like it's new since last week. Or is my day weight 29 minus 7? Is my math wrong? These are on the edge.
Yeah.
Let me see. Okay, so Ruben dealt with that last week. I guess there's one in the inbox. Probably nobody's looked at that. Yeah.
Oh, the performance degradation. I think that was something, a flag that we need to remove.
Fails to boot, noble numbat. Oh, and this is the work you were already talking about, Ramon?
Yeah,
Waiting for
there's
changes.
already a branch where it's fixed.
Pending merge then. Look at
No,
that.
there's nothing, no PR. Maybe there's now a PR. Long was working on it, so not sure if he
It's
did the
something.
PR now or not. I don't think he did it. I think we just want to have like one working thing, the whole.
Yeah. Oh,
Once the stem cell stuff is done, once this CI is working again, I will probably make the noble CI as well. Or I think maybe you should wait with that, because once I move it over, nobody can commit without going through the whole merge process, which is really annoying when you're developing.
is that true? Once you merge it over?
Yes, as soon as I put it in the Ubuntu, in like said, Ubuntu dash Jammy or whatever, Ubuntu dash, everything from that is all the rules are enforced on that. I made this mistake many times because I just like, oh, okay, Ubuntu Jammy and then dash fix this. And then, oh shit, I made the wrong commit. I need to refer it. And I was like, yep, well, you can make a PR in your own PR. So yeah, that sucks.
Yes. There is a branch protection rule of */*. So anything with a slash in it.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody have anything else?
No, good.
All right. Thank you all. Have a good week.
Yeah, have a
See
good
you.
week.
Thank you.
Later.
Thank you also.
See you next
Take
week.
care.
Bye.
Bye bye.